I grew up, I was born in 1974 in Belfast, in a cycle of violence better known to the world as the Troubles. Our daily life was full, unfortunately, of bombs going off, terror attacks, and our communities were both killing each other on a daily basis. You know, our abnormal life as we went through it as children just became normal. And I remember the policeman come running out, shouting, "Get off the roof!" He said, "There's a sniper in the forest, get off the roof." And one of my guys said, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you want to do?" He says, "Well, your man's definitely away. I want a full day's pay. So what are we going to do?" And I said, "Let's get back on the fucking roof."
Why there was a sniper there?
Tommy Smyth is a proud Belfast entrepreneur and the founder of Dream Apartments. Shaped by the resilience of his hometown, Tom Smyth turned early ambition into success in the property and hospitality sector, creating stylish and high-quality accommodation for both corporate and leisure travellers. He is also the founder of Dream Mentoring and known for his commitment and mentorship. Tom is also a Grant Cardone 10x coach and is dedicated to giving back to the community that shaped his path.
You said earlier that, you know, you're going up to Manchester today and you're going to walk onto a building site and pitch them some business.
There's a top developer in Manchester who doesn't know I'm coming this morning. And so what do you use LinkedIn for? I use LinkedIn for opportunity. So I've just seen this guy's he's just agreed 3 new parts of Manchester for planning. I'm just going to walk straight cold call into that office and I'll say,
So today we have a very special guest, Belfast-born entrepreneur, CEO of Dream Luxury Apartments, 10x Grant Cardone business coach, mentor, mindset guru. Welcome, Tom Smyth.
Thank you so much, Mama. Thank you very much for having me, Jimmy.
You're welcome. Been looking forward to this, mate. So tell us, for anyone that doesn't know you, Tom, tell us about a bit of your background. You know, you're from Belfast, you grew up when the Troubles was on. So tell us a little bit about your background story.
I grew up, I was born in 1974 in Belfast, in a cycle of violence better known to the world as the Troubles. Our daily life was full, unfortunately, of bombs going off, terror attacks, and our communities were both killing each other on a daily basis. You know, our abnormal life as we went through it as children just became normal. My dad was a postman. My mum was a car worker. I'm very lucky they're both still alive. And like a lot of people in our country, we had no money. We had the worst unemployment in Europe, as you can imagine, with war and death going on your doorstep. But one thing we did have was love in our house, hard work and great morals. I also remember sometimes the electricity being off in our house, and you know, maybe it was another IRA bomb attack that maybe had put a generator out, but it wasn't. It was sometimes we couldn't afford to pay our lecky bill. So, and that was part of growing up. You know, my mum and dad didn't believe in debt, and they brought me up the right way. At the age of 10, I got my first job working in a fish and chip shop, and I was the kid that peeled the potatoes and made the chips. And for 5 solid years, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And the young entrepreneur was born at the age of 10. And sometimes I would have saved for 4 or 5 weeks and bought my own football boots, our own trainers, our own trackie. And then other times I would have just sat and looked at my money box as a kid, knowing that that is my money. That money gives me a choice. And it was just inspiring to feel that I have put that money there. I found work ethic towards it. I went through school. I didn't agree with the curriculum in my head. And I now that I realise I have ADHD, maybe it was something I didn't connect with. Maybe it was because of that. I'm not sure. But school wasn't a good thing for me. I didn't really enjoy it.
And so where did that lead you then? So obviously you're saying you're saving up for things. You're trying to find your own way. You've got good values in the household. You know, your parents are bringing you up the right way. So where are we looking for to sort of the age of then 10 to 18 for your life?
Yeah, growing up in Northern Ireland was definitely a different environment compared to a normal city, even in the UK. It was tough, very, very tough. But I believe the resilience of our country made me who I am. And I'm very grateful for what Belfast has done for me. I am also super proud of both communities and our community leaders, because we ended up finding peace and our country was transformed forever. And I have to say that both sides of our community deserve a round of applause, you know, because it's a miracle in my eyes. I never thought we would see it as kids. As a young guy, I was offered a job as a contractor, and I was told at the start, you can earn more money than anybody else. And I thought, what's the catch here? And the catch was, you'll be working for the security forces. And it's called danger money, because that's the label was called danger money, because we were contractors that worked for the police and the army. So then one side of our community seen us as the enemy. And I remember one time we were out working on the forensic lab in Carrickfergus in the countryside, close to a forest. And I remember the policeman come running out, shouting, "Get off the roof!" And I'm shouting down to the guy, "I've got my guys. What's wrong?" He said, "There's a sniper in the forest. Get off the roof." We all get down off the roof. You seen an army helicopter turning up. You seen the army going in, the police. And one of my guys said, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you want to do?" He says, "Well, your man's definitely away. I want a full day's pay. So what are we going to do?" And I said, "Let's get back on the fucking roof."
Why there was a sniper there?
Well, he had gone. It was obvious that he had gone, but that abnormalness was just our normal. We knew he was gone. There's no way he was going to hang about. And the lads were more interested in a day's pay. So, that was Northern Ireland.
It's crazy. So tell us a couple of other things that you've seen, back in them days. I imagine that, life wasn't normal for the average person listening to this,
It was just, when you think back now, you say to yourself, was that our life? Bombs going off in the street and innocent people dying on both sides, gun attacks in the bars, taxi drivers being murdered regularly, all of this was just another day in the life of Northern Ireland in the Troubles. Until then, both sides and the people in both each communities just went, "Enough is enough, please." And then we found peace. And one of the things finding peace, I remember sitting in the bar with all the lads, and I didn't drink, by the way, from I was 18 until I was 30. I was sitting in the bar with the lads looking at property magazines, and they were all like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to buy a house." So everybody's laughing at me, like the fool who's looking at property. But they weren't laughing when the IRA called their ceasefire in 1994, and the house that I bought for 30,000 tripled in value. So then that was the springboard for me as a businessman. I had a bit of equity then as a kid. And then I went again.
So what was seeing all that drama and growing up in that environment? That must have had an effect on you. You openly speak about,
Didn't come across like anything out of the ordinary. And that might be hard to fathom, but it was a normal day in the life of growing up in Northern Ireland. And of course it was terrible, but you just get so used to it.
Yeah, it's great.
Get so used to it.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Police helicopters, army in the street, road blocks, a guy stopping the bus in the middle of Belfast, and they checked it for bombs before they let the bomb come into the bus come into the city. Walking into Primark or C&A back in the day, you were scanned with a metal detector as a little kid with your mum to see if there was a gun or a bomb in a bag. So that we were being going through metal detectors 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
It's great.
Metal detectors as a kid, but it was normal.
And so where did that, so growing up must have been obviously difficult. So where did that take you then in regards to, you openly speak about alcoholism and PTSD, which I imagine a lot of people in a similar environment will go through. Tell us about that, because obviously I know that now you don't drink and you're a changed man and you're a man of God.
Yeah, well, I definitely think there's been trauma-related incidents maybe in my life that have affected me, that maybe brought me to the point where I ended up becoming a drinker. I didn't drink from I was 18 till I was 30. At 30, I found alcohol and turned into a rock star. Well, I thought I did. But just to go back, Northern Ireland in itself, I believe, made me the person that I am. The alcohol came along at a later part of my life, and now I can honestly say one of the best things not one of the best things that ever helped me was to get sober. I've also found Jesus Christ in my life. Something that I definitely need to give up is saying the F word. But I feel that's part of me until it's not. But the whole road to recovery has been the best thing for me. Alcohol is not a part of my life now. I can't even imagine what it feels like. I don't wake up with a hangover. I'm the 24/7 guy. I'm completely reliable. I'm the dad that my kids look up to, I hope. My wife is my entire world. So is my children. So is my granddaughter, Nova. And I also believe as a coach and as a mentor, it's amazing when you can talk to people about your sobriety, and then because there's so many people relate to it who might be quietly or silently struggling with addiction or alcohol. And it's one of the things about my dream mentoring course that people are very related to, because then they know you're real. And of course, AA and alcoholism comes with its elements of anonymity, but I feel I'm the guy that's open to talk out about it, because there may be one person who's listening, even if it's one, to this podcast. And thank you, Jimmy, for asking me. And it might give them courage to go and get help. It might give them courage to go to an AA meeting. And like, I love going to AA. Because it's, and you know, the beautiful thing, obviously there is anonymity, that's very important, but somebody at our meeting recently said, you know, the reason this guy was 50 years sober is because he goes to meetings.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't get to the point where you've nailed this, but you also get to the point where you actually love going to the meetings. And all those people that go to those meetings are my brothers and sisters in recovery, and I love it.
What was the tipping point for you then, Tom, to say, you know what, this is enough, I want to actually focus on me now? What was that tipping point?
I got to the point where alcohol was not the solution anymore. You know, if I had a brilliant week, I had a drink. If I had a bad week, I had a drink. You know, I knew my own PIN code to justify having a drink. But it didn't add up or stack up with the life that I was living, because I was the entrepreneur, I was giving it loads, I was the fitness guy. But then alcohol started slipping into it. And I'm like, where did this come from? And I like controlling things, you know, and I'm like, this is not going to control me. But it started to, so I had to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think one thing that I noticed that a lot of people nowadays, they're obsessed with escapism. You know, they have a busy week, or they hate the job, and they just want to escape. And escapism comes in many forms, doesn't it? You know, it comes in drink, it comes in drugs, it comes in, you know, switching your phone off and avoiding maybe hard work, or not getting back to people on messages or phone calls. You know, there's a lot of people struggling with escapism now. So what advice would you give to someone to overcome escaping?
I think you nailed that there, because you're right. So many people now growing up are believing this escapism is the thing. You know, is it the line of coke? Is it the alcohol? Is it smoking a joint? And then they go on a different trip and escape from their own reality. Do you want to know something? I love my reality. And my reality and my escapism will be watching a sunset, watching a sunrise, maybe doing 2 hours of stair climbing on a machine, listening to positive content, and I lose myself in positivity. Choose the healthier option. Stop hitting the fuck it button, because hitting the fuck it button is only destroying you. There is a whole world out there, and of course I've just said fuck, but Jesus Christ is also my escapism. I escape into God now. And when I need something, here's something I want to share with you. Growing up in Northern Ireland, in my head, or even walking down the street, or in some shape or form, you were always fighting. Could be in an inner battle, could have been an outer battle. Could have been showing toughness. It could have been, you know, not giving an inch. And now in life, I have found it's in surrender and I win. And for me to say that, it is like, sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, the feeling of calmness, where I know if I get on my knees and surrender all of my anxieties, my resentments, whatever it may be, anger, temper, whatever it may be, fear, if I surrender everything to God, He takes it all. And in surrendering, you truly do win when you have faith and you believe. And this whole journey I'm going on, I'm a guy from the street. I grew up in a tough place, and I believe maybe, is this the next chapter for me where I talk more and more about my faith and where God's taking me? Do I get the whole bad language thing maybe removed? It's probably going to be the next chapter. Once I put my mind to it, it's gone. And I can honestly say there is not a better life to be living. Waking up in the morning, the first thing I do is on my knees, pray to God and hand my day over. And when you're in this program of recovery too, it's all about making amends with people, and it's about handing it over to a power greater than you. And mine's called Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and definitely. And I think, you know, what we were talking about downstairs before, it's, you know, the biggest thing that you can do to find yourself, to get over yourself is being vulnerable, isn't it? And I think ego at the moment is getting worse and worse.
What does ego stand for? You'll like this.
Yeah. No, please tell us.
Edging God out.
Edging God out.
The more you edge God out and you think you're the man, the more it goes to your head.
It's very interesting. I've never heard that before.
Edging God out. I want to edge God in. I might have this life that looks flamboyant and really great. My feet are planted firmly on the ground. And one of my biggest things is I love helping people, whether it's going over and stuffing 20 quid into somebody's sleeping bag on the street, and they might wake up and be able to buy food, or what they do with that money is none of my business, you know, or helping people in Africa by building wells for fresh drinking water. Man, ego, really? Like, I am here today and I'm blown away that I've got a chance to do this for you. This is not the Tom Smyth show. This is the Jamie Ray show. And I am over the moon to be here and privileged with you. It's not the other way around. The special guest, the special person in my life is called Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think I'm very passionate about obviously spreading stories like yours that can help other people. You know, we've all been, you know, we've all got a past, and I think people can learn from actually their past and who they really are, because a lot of people struggle with who they are at the moment. Identity. I mean, what we do at Ways to Wow is helping people, you know, clarify their identity in themselves and also clarify what makes them unique in business. So, you know, what advice would you give somebody to discover themselves, who they are, what makes them unique?
I have a technique on my mentoring course, and I have everybody follow it. I've even got a client who's a very close friend called Emma Weaver that owns Mental Wealth International. She's an amazing woman from Northern Ireland. And I have a system called my mantra that I have on my clients. I get them to do their goals, their gratitude, and their mantra, but to do it a certain way. And to remember who you are, I write a one-pager every single day. And it's the power of I am. Now, for somebody starting off, it could take 20 to 30 days writing this for you actually to go, hold on, it works. Because on day one, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And you're cringing. But mine starts like this: I am a warrior of Jesus Christ. My second sentence is, I am a sober man. I am a sober man. My next sentence could be, I am a huge money and vast wealth magnet. I am a total success and positivity magnet. I am going from magazines to movie scenes. I'm here to do it all. Now, I found that sentence, magazines to movie scenes, in 2021, started believing the sentence. I've wrote books, I've been in magazines, and I acted in my first film, Rise of a Foot Soldier, and I've been picked for another movie. So the power of I am the most amazing dad. I am the most amazing husband. And sometimes when I'm writing, I am the most amazing dad, it will register. I think you need to be doing more for your two daughters. I am the most amazing granddad. And I'll check in with myself. Are you doing enough? Am I doing enough being a husband? So not only does the power of I am enrich me on who I am, but sometimes it also puts me on point. Are you doing enough, bro? And then I've got this whole one pager of who I am, and then I'm ready to rip doors off.
So you definitely, and I love that process. And I think, you know, it's about getting it on paper, isn't it? It's about getting out of your head and into your heart.
I couldn't agree with you more, because some people say, I know, but I think it. And I'm like, see, writing it. Now, I am from the street, but I've also got a PhD in the street. See, feeling that connection with pen and paper. The power of a pen and paper, who it will make you be, because you might think something, but as you write, the magic kicks in, and you might write a different sentence on who I am.
That's the reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Put it on paper.
Yeah, but also, like, if you have some sort of discipline, you'll be the person that writes it. This morning, I got up at 4:00, done my mantra, my goals, my gratitude, went to the gym, had breakfast for you. I'm doing a podcast, and it's just turning 10 to 10. I've all of it done. But it's the discipline of the guy on the page, the I am version of me, has made me who I am.
Yeah, totally. And there's a study that's well known. I think it was by Harvard, and they speak about, you know, the average person has 60 to 120,000 thoughts a day, and out of them 120,000 thoughts, 80% of those are negative or repetitive. So as soon as the average person wakes up in the morning, they've got 80% of negativity on them, you know, with thoughts and everything, anxiety.
Usually they're looking at their phone, the notifications, then they're looking at a dream life by somebody on Instagram, which is probably fake. They're starting to feel bad about themselves. Like, I will go onto I will go onto my phone when I wake up, and I will put a message on my mentoring group for all my dream mentoring clients. Then my phone goes on its face, and I write for 90 minutes. So at the end of it, if I have a bad email, a challenging text message, it will not affect me, because one of my sentences is, I am bulletproof. And I believe I am.
I believe it also. You certainly live that lifestyle. I've just, you know, spent an hour with you downstairs. We're eating some eggs. You're inhaling your eggs. You're shot on your coffee. You know, obviously we went to the toilet for the toilet break, and I thought, I'm going to beat this guy and having a pee now. And I beat you, but you're saying you were listening to voice notes. But I think, you know, you're a property tycoon, Tom. You've got your mentorship program. You've got the furniture business. You know, you're a guy of resilience, and we can tell that from obviously your story. So let's get into business.
Yeah.
Tell us, what was the process for Dream Apartments? You've got now, is it over 550 properties?
Yeah, like Dream Apartments for me was born. We opened in 2017, but for a year prior to that, I said to my wife, I want to get into this hotel business. I'd met a guy in Dubai who I became very close friends with. He was like a younger version of my dad. His name was Billy. And he says to me, bro, look at the cash flow on this. It's amazing. But you need to bring a deal to the table. I'm like, okay. So I walked the streets of Belfast, Dublin, all of the UK for a year. I had doors closed on my face. I was told never come back. My number was blocked from people. Emails not returned. And my wife said to me, a year of doing this, when are you going to give up? And when I say doing this, I want people to get this, right? Transit, driving along as a contractor, covered in dirt and cement, opening the back of the van, standing in the car park, taking off my trousers in the middle of the car park, bottle of water, taking cement off my face, spraying myself with aftershave, putting moisturiser on, and I put a suit on and walked into different offices, put my work gear back on and drove for a year. Sometimes I would have flew to England, suited up, and would have walked the streets for 2 days solid. So it was relentless behaviour that Belfast taught me. Growing up in Belfast gave me that relentless behaviour. Dolores said to me the day before I got my deal, she says to me, please tell me, when are you going to give this up? It's never coming. When are you going to give up? It's painful to watch. And I said, sweetheart, I'm the guy that never gives up, ever. And the next day, I got a phone call from a Savills International Estate Agents. Said Marathon, the New York hedge funds came to Belfast. They bought 2 ghost buildings. They want to do a deal with you. I waited all day, no phone call. And I got the call that night. And the call came through. Marathon have said yes. And I dropped to my knees in the middle of DW gym and cried my eyes out in the middle of that gym. And I didn't care who saw me. I wasn't embarrassed. I was so full of fucking joy. I can still relive that moment right now.
And take us back to that moment. It must have felt, how did you feel in your heart when that?
It was like a firecracker going off. My whole body was tingling, and all of those no's turned into that one yes. And I believe the universe was saying, how bad do you want it, bro? How bad do you fucking want it? And I took a year of no's until I got my yes. So for anybody who's expecting this overnight success or whatever it may be, it usually takes 5 years to establish something amazing. It took me 1 year to get my first building open. And then the whole success came through that. Even during COVID, when everybody was losing their mind, and rightly so, COVID was a tough time for a lot of people. We more than doubled the size of our business.
It's crazy. So yeah, it's an amazing story. And I think, listening to that myself, it's about always pushing through. We spoke about downstairs of, always asking. If you don't ask, you don't get. So tell us a little bit how that saved you. Now that's opened them doors by, not waiting for someone to come to you, but you're going to them. You said earlier that, you're going up to Manchester today and you're going to walk onto a building site and pitch them some business.
Well, yeah, no, there's a top developer in Manchester who doesn't know I'm coming this morning. Yeah. And so what do you use LinkedIn for? I use LinkedIn for opportunity. So I've just seen this guy's he's just agreed 3 new parts of Manchester for planning. And he's going to be building a couple of towers, which means he needs furniture for these apartment blocks. But having the confidence, which I work on every single day, I'm just going to walk straight cold call into that office. I'm going to probably bring a box of donuts, which is a gift. I'll bring a box of pastries in. I'll ask to speak to the guy and I'll say, I'm Tom from Manor and Tears. I'm the chief operating officer. We're a Manchester-based company. We have offices in Miami, Saudi and Dubai. And I want 10 minutes with you, please, about your furniture. I'm definitely your guy. You just don't know it yet. What?
And how so most, your book is called Overcoming Fear and Self-Doubt. Yeah. So you've given me a copy today. Thank you so much. Fearless. So for people who do fear, Tommy, which is a lot of people, a lot of people get into their heads. And one thing that I always say is get out of your head and into your heart. Even just by putting your hand on your heart, you get out of your head. So what advice would you give? Because you're not afraid. You've got no fear of walking in, but you're a very successful entrepreneur and property tycoon. So,
but it hasn't always been that way. Like I didn't wake up this person who can just do that. I have just simply built that person. I'll have a conversation. What's the worst that could happen here? This guy is going to say no. Can you die walking into here? No. Okay. All bets are off then. Nothing crazy can happen. Straight in. And like some of the biggest deals in my life have just been having the complete courage to either walk the streets, walk cold call in, send somebody a message. Fortune is in the follow-up.
Yeah.
If you don't have the courage to follow stuff up, you will never get it. And there is so much opportunity sitting here waiting right now. And all you need to do is pick up a call. You need to follow up that call. You need to follow up that call until you get that person, or walk into their office, or make yourself interesting that they want to speak to you.
How would you make yourself interesting for someone that's listening to this? How can somebody build a reputation?
So Jamie Ray's my guy. I need to do business with him, and I see he loves doing cardio. And I'll message you and say, look, Jamie, this isn't a cold call. I really want to do business with you. Here's who I am. I see you love the stair climber. Do you want to do a stair climbing event, or do you want to do a slip? Well, we'll have breakfast and I'll do 2 hours with you, and you'll be like, 2 hours? And instantly I'll get your sort of interest. This guy does 2 hours in a stair climber. No, bro, I can do 6 hours. I can do 10 hours. Where would you like to stop? And then the next thing, you're intrigued. How can this guy do this? I might send you a video of me and Molly McCann running Radio City during COVID, but done half of Mount Everest. And the next thing, then I've made myself interesting, instead of just being a cold call. And you're like, come in, let's speak. Whatever it takes, WIT, whatever it takes.
I love that, WIT.
Look at somebody on Instagram. There might be a family man, come up with something, send them cinema tickets or whatever it may be, but find a connection with somebody. Don't do what everybody else is doing, which is probably nothing.
Well, one thing I always talk about as well is, business is transactional. Building a brand is transformational. The brand starts with you. Personal branding's trending now. Everyone wants to build a personal brand and build their reputation. So how have you built your brand, and how would you say, what advice would you give to somebody of the importance of building a brand starting with yourself?
You need to be true to yourself. You need to have core values. Like the person somebody sees on social media, I am that person. I am relentless. I am disciplined. I don't drink. I do go to AA meetings. I do love Jesus Christ. I am a family man. I love my wife and kids. Don't try and be something that you're not, because everybody will see through it. You have to be true to yourself. And if you can be consistent on that, if you can turn up every day, if you can start adding confidence to this, add a thing called effort, which is totally free, you will excel. Because I also believe in a world now where everybody is getting softer, if you have emotional toughness and believe in yourself, it's game over. You've already won.
So, and with the emotional toughness and always pushing through and having a resilience, you told me, it's a well-known story that, you wanted to get connection to Grant Cardone. So you were the first person in the
first Grant Cardone licensee for Ireland and Europe and stuff and things like that.
So to actually get that, you tell us the story about the donuts.
Yeah. So, I really wanted to connect. My friend said to me, what's that look in your face? And I says, bro, I'm going to work with Grant Cardone, the American billionaire. And he says, you're nuts. This was during COVID. And I says, watch this space. So the next thing I thought, how do you get to the man? Well, you need to get to the team. So I was sitting in my office. My PA was called Jackie. She was amazing. My current PA is amazing too. I'm just clearing that up. But I said to Jackie, okay, we need to find a donut shop in Miami close to their office. And she says, what? I said, we're going to buy a donut for every staff member. We're going to send a message so everybody knows who I am. She went, you're crazy. Am I? So we spent $850 on 280 donuts, and the whole of Grant Cardone's office got a donut each. The next thing, my phone started blowing up with videos. Hey, Tom, thank you. Come to our office. I couldn't because of restrictions. It was during COVID, but I got a whole team to find out, who is this Irish guy? So the next thing, I started connecting with Jared Grant's right-hand man, who's a personal close friend of mine now. He is the best guy. And then the next thing, I went through all the fire doors and firewalls, and then I got the Mr. Cardone, the American billionaire. In August 23, they invited me. I came to their office. I'd been the year before, but Grant wasn't there. He had to go on a property deal. And that's the luck of the draw. But I went and I sat with Grant, and I had met Grant thousands of times in my head. I had wrote the goal thousands of times. I had not one nerve. I think when you've grew up in Northern Ireland, you don't really become nervous. I wasn't nervous, and I get on like a house on fire. Complete gentleman. He has everything he comes across. his amazing family core values. And I was there to say to him, would you please speak at our event? And we ran an event in Warsaw called Show Me the Money, 2,500 people, and Grant was our guest speaker. And I just went through from a donut to being in his TV studio, and then Grant come onto the stage on live footage from Miami, and he says, hello, my friend Tom. And I just thought, I've nailed this. My whole dream mentoring system had worked. The taking the massive action, the writing the goals, the consistency, the total belief, and then boom, it became a reality. And when I walk in their office now, you're treated like royalty, and it's all from one thought being brought into reality. But it's effort, consistency, confidence, and all of that is free.
It's being crystal clear on your goals, isn't it? It's being crystal clear on what it is that you want, where most people suffer with that lack of clarity on actually what they want to achieve, and it's putting it into practice.
You'll never hit a target that you haven't set. If you set a definitive target, you're going to hit it. You know, whether that's losing weight, making money, opening a business, you will do it.
You can't, what is it? You can't measure what you don't measure. Yeah, exactly.
Plus the other thing is you also need to always put a date on it. Because if you don't put a date on it, you're living in mañana, and tomorrow will never come. People would say sometimes, but what happens if you don't achieve it by that date? You haven't given off massive action to achieving the goal. If you're obsessed with the goal, you'll achieve it. That's it.
So if anyone's listening to this and they've got something that they want to do, they need to get a date on it, and they need to do everything they can to actually
And
make
also,
it happen.
I put a date on it. I sign it. I write, it's done, which is my declaration with the universe. Sign, it's done, and the date. You know, it's
Brilliant. I love that
my
process.
declaration. So I've got my goal nearly as a contract. Not nearly, it's a contract with the universe. But I also write my goals in the sequence that I've already achieved it. So when you read it, you're like, bro, is this yours?
So maybe share something that's on the list now. That's something that you're striving for. If you wouldn't mind sharing something that you're working towards, or you've maybe recently achieved that was on that list. What would that be? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, one of them is building 20 wells in Africa before Christmas this year to bring fresh drinking water to schools, orphanages and villages that don't have water in West Africa. Another one is buying a brand new apartment in Brickell. Another one is closing $20 million worth of furniture orders with a few new developers that we're working with in Dubai. And all I'll do is take massive action through connection, through going to Dubai, following it up, becoming interesting. I'll be there, guy, and I won't even see it coming. Another one is $150 million, but in my head, I've already closed this with one American company. We're going to be doing hotels, huge scheme in Orlando. And that came from simply being persistent, treating the clients with huge respect, doing other things that other people won't do, like air freighting samples and speeding up processes. And what we have done in 8 months, somebody probably would have done in 2 years.
So I think business is going well. You're trying to expand the business. Let's talk about dream. Let's talk about your mentoring, dream mentoring. Yeah. So tell us what dream mentoring is, and tell us what about the dream mentoring formula.
Okay, thank you for asking me that. So dream mentoring is something that evolved coming out of COVID. I started writing my book in March 2020. A month later, I started writing my mentoring course and launched it, and it exploded. It started doing really well. Coming out of the course, the next thing I started becoming a mindset coach. I worked with Molly McCann from UFC, and she had the most amount of wins in her career working with me. I'm very proud to say that, including the spinning elbow in London. But then I also worked with some of the top business people in the UK and Ireland. My system on writing goals is second to none. So, it's how I teach people. It's not about me. It's the system. It's the writing in the pretense that you've already achieved stuff. It's turning a little bit of belief into complete belief. Yeah. It's making the man or woman in the mirror totally believe in themselves. And also, even if they're a good looking man or good looking woman, making sure their self-image is on point. So their self-image is big enough to achieve that goal. It's making the woman or man on my course emotionally tough, giving them a universal toolbox to be able to deal with life on life's terms and win. Because it's not about the external, it's the internal. When you have won the internal game, nothing will be able to stop you. That's it. You become the man or woman who's bulletproof. And Dream Mentoring brings that to the masses now. We have 2 live Zooms, Monday and a Thursday for our clients. We have a WhatsApp community. We have aesthetics girls, car dealers, developers, roofers, plumbers, sparks, all on this course. And everybody comes together. And you know the beautiful thing about the mentoring program and the WhatsApp group that everybody's on? Everybody wants each other to win. It's not like normal life. And I know I say winners win, but I live this. And so do I to my clients. And the most beautiful thing is when you get a message from a client saying, you have no idea how much this course is changing my life. And you're like, no monetary value can be added to that because it's so rewarding.
Definitely. And I think this is obviously, this is your real purpose that you want to grow this now. And yeah, we're speaking downstairs of, your vision for the mentoring now. So yeah, tell us about the dream formula, Tom, of what the DREAM stands for.
So thank you for us. So in my book, Fearless, I have a system and it's called DREAM. D is for determination. And if you've got determination, if you believe that you're unstoppable, nothing on this planet will hold you back. R is for regeneration. Every one of us should be regenerating and revitalizing and becoming a different version of themselves, always evolving. E is for energization. And I believe I've got like a power station inside me and I can press that button and keep going. People would say to me, bro, where do you get that energy from? But all of us have that. It's how to tap into it is what we teach people. A is for ambition. And I have it dripping out of my fingers. Why would I stop? I'm 51 years old. I'm only warming up. And M is for motivation. And I'm motivation's best friend too. I've got discipline and it's through every part of my DNA. Every single part of that system is free. It doesn't cost anything. And every man and woman has it. It's just about having the courage to tap into it.
You mentioned there about discipline and motivation. What do you think the difference is between discipline and motivation?
Yeah, like discipline and motivation. For me, discipline is walking out of the house at 3 a.m. There's snow on the ground. And I walk into my gym and before I hit the heating on, I'm laughing at myself because I don't know anybody that walks out in the middle of the snow and starts getting on the stair climber before a fly to England. And I'm even laughing at myself going, you are relentless. And I love it. Discipline is getting out of bed when you don't want to get out of bed. It's when maybe 2 hours sleep and you still get up. But it's the discipline that makes you the woman or man that you really are meant to be. Like, of course I want to lie in bed beside my beautiful wife on a Saturday morning. Discipline takes me to AA.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, talking about your wife, then you told me a beautiful story downstairs. You've been together for 18 years. And, we've spoken about the importance of connection. One thing that, I'm really keen on. My purpose is, elevating human connection, performance and experience. So, the world now is becoming robotic.
Yeah, I think the most beautiful thing is like my wife, Dolores, has never asked me for anything. Not the car, the diamonds, the watch, none of it, or the handbag. The only one thing she's ever asked me for is my time. And I believe my wife's a 20 out of 10. I believe in my head she's the most beautiful woman in the world. And for her to want to spend time with me, I feel privileged. But can I just say something? During COVID, if I looked at a circle and a pie chart, I had become addicted to success and winning, that I had also forgot the importance of my wife and kids and that family unit. And it wasn't until Dolores gave me the nudge to say, do you not remember us? And I'm lucky that I got that shot to realize the whole point that I'm being successful is for my wife and kids and granddaughter. And I got the biggest wake-up call of my life. And I'm very grateful to Dolores that I got the wake-up call, because I had got carried away with being successful and pushing too hard. And I got wrapped up in the whole COVID thing, just thinking I'm a machine, I'm going to beat this, I'm going to beat COVID, fuck COVID. And my business was... we were doing very well.
So how do you switch off from the success drive to now the connection drive? If anyone listens to this again, people now are addicted to the phones. They can't get off them. How do you actually manage to switch off and get that family time?
Yeah, like the phone thing has been a challenge for me until it wasn't. I also will slip up sometimes and Dolores will say to me, what are you doing? I'm like, you're right. But it should be you coming home on a Friday night at 5 o'clock. I will not look at an email until Monday morning, because if there's an email comes through over the weekend that could upset me, it can only affect me if I've read it. If a number comes through that I don't recognize over the weekend, I'm not answering that call, because if there's an element of bad news that maybe needs dealt with from a business point of view, it can wait till Monday. I don't want to know. That time for my wife and kids is sacramental to me. It's a privilege to be spending time with them. When I'm with Dolores, I want to be with Dolores. When I'm on date night, I'm staring into that woman's eyes because I am totally in love with her. I'm not like you'd see a couple and you're like, guys, why you out together when you're on your phone? You know, what about romance? What about, you know, why would I not give her my undivided attention?
And I love that. And I think that's balance. I think for anyone that's starting a business now, or, you know, at the sort of early parts of their journey,
forget about work-life balance.
Yeah.
Forget about it. Because if you want to be successful, I would say I'm not lucky. I've got to the point where I can carve up and bend and twist time to suit me. I normally get up at 3:45 and I will go through periods of the day making sure I've checked in with both daughters. When I go home at night, my granddaughter will say, "Horsey, Granda?" And I become a horse and walk about the garden pretending to be a horse, and she's touching the trees and she thinks I'm her horsey. And then there'll be periods where I'm going to the gym with my wife, we're going out for dinner, and then the next thing I'm my wife's husband. And you can be all of them if you put your energy into being all of them. For anybody only starting a business, you are going to come up against big challenges. If you think you can do the family and the business, your family life will suffer, whether somebody wants to tell you that. If they tell you it won't, they're lying to you. But no matter what, you will need to find time to make sure that you're loving your loved ones, or there's no point opening the business. And I found that out during COVID.
Yeah, no, totally right. Totally right. And another sort of question I've got for you is, you know, obviously our company is called Ways to Wow. The company is called Ways to Wow. Everything that we do is helping people, you know, exceed expectations, both personally and in business, by standing out, building reputation, and, you know, being meaningful. So what does exceeding expectations mean to you, and what advice would you give someone to actually start exceeding expectations more in their life?
From like in a company point of view or a personal point of view?
Both personal and professional.
Yeah, from a personal point of view, I believe success is your duty. You know, it's your duty to inspire somebody from your community. It's your duty for your family. So then your kids have a role model to look up to. It's also a duty for yourself. You know, do you want to leave this planet not accomplishing everything that you were meant to? I also believe as an entrepreneur or as an employee of a company, you know, what people don't get sometimes is, if I've got a guy over here who's working for Jamie and he's given 1,000% and exceeding his expectations, somebody as sharp as you will start thinking, this kid might end up at director level and I can maybe send him to a different company to run my business. And because he's exceeding his expectations, you're lining him up to give him a whole different, you're not giving him a job anymore. You're giving him a world-changing, life-changing career, because he had the courage to exceed his expectations and not just do what he's being paid for. So, you know, here's what I would say, and I think it nails it. Hard work works. And the consistency of doing that will always give you the life that you want. Especially, it's about also staying in it, because sometimes we can nearly lose our mind where you're trying so hard. It could be over like a 12-month period, 2-year period, 3-year period. And you're like, where is this going? And the success is maybe sometimes 24 hours away, a week away, or a month away. And you'll only get that if you stay in it. You know, if you do not give up, you cannot lose. And that's where you really win. Staying in it, staying on it is where it's at.
And definitely, I think there's a famous quote. I'm not sure who it's by. It's, you know, you can have control or growth, but you can't have both. And I think that's, you know, a lot of people try to control everything. A lot of businesses, you know, people who are listening to this, you know, maybe have a small team, don't really want to give some responsibility away, but they can't grow. None of us can grow without, you know, giving something away, can we?
You can never be the one-man band or the one-woman band. You need to have delegation. And, you know, there'll be time where you're paying people and you're not getting their full potential or their full percentage of effort. But unfortunately, you still need the full tier structure of somebody who's giving you 100%, 80%, 70, and maybe 60. With that Christmas tree effect of effort, as you scale a company, you need all of them people. Because if you try and do it on your own, you will fail, you will hit the wall, and you'll end up having resentment towards what you're trying to do.
What do you say the key fundamental is to building a successful brand? Then what would you say, if you were to pick one thing, what would that be to key to success, to building a, you know, long-term successful brand?
Never giving up. You know, never giving up is the key to everything. You know, whether it's going to AA meetings, you know, putting effort into a marriage that could just be on the turnaround, and you give up and you lose it. You know, same with your business. Never give up. and it's just ingrained in me. I don't even know what it means. Giving up, really. Look out in the dictionary. You're not seeing a photograph of me.
Yeah, I love that. And so, okay, let's talk about, we've got our Build a Brand Summit coming up May 20th, 21st. You're one of our guest speakers.
Thank you very much.
I think, going to be an amazing event. We're looking at building the first Build a Brand Summit, the largest in the Northwest, which is going to be awesome. And I think, you being there is going to add so much value to people, especially with everything that we've heard today. So what are you looking forward to the most towards the event?
It's never, I believe in a situation like that where you have an opportunity to speak to people. It is never about you. It's about the message that you deliver. And I think, an example would be maybe how I flew to America with Farhan, with our company, Manor Interiors. We went to America. We didn't know anybody. And what does that look like 8 months down the road when we've built the brand? People know us. Like, the crazy thing was the other week when I walked down the street in Miami, somebody shouted, "Hey, Tom." And I'm like, what? People are waving at me in the street. People, because you're starting to know people. But building a brand and what it really takes, and I'll come up with a speech or the knowledge of how to actually do it, the key points, the facts, so then somebody can relate to it. Because if you do follow the key points to building a brand, you will actually be able to do it. But it's about staying relentless on that journey. It's about waking up effort. It's defeating self-doubt. That's why I wrote that book. It's an antidote. It's about being fearless. And the days that you don't want to turn up for meetings, the days you don't want to go, the only way to build that brand is to keep going. And then the next thing you're like, we got the phone call, we got the contract. But you're never going to get there unless you keep showing up. And showing up's a big thing too. Keep showing up.
Totally. And I think it's about showing up, and it's about, keep going forward. So
can I just stop there 1 second? Like this morning, I was coming to see you. Couldn't wait. Woke up at 4, but bang, I get hit with anxiety from I woke up. It's all something I've always suffered from. And I'm like, here we go again. And I'm talking to myself and I'm like, so how do we defeat anxiety, Tom? Action, bro, is my voice saying inside. And I know of a couple of things this morning. So the next thing, the anxiety left after maybe an hour, because then I wrote my action points of something that I need to do, or a couple of things that then removes my anxiety. So, it's also for the person who's needing to build a brand. When you come under attack from anxiety, there is a solution to it. I believe anxiety for me is connected to every stem cell in my body, like everybody. And I'm always either take action or don't do something, resolves my anxiety. But dealing with the issue is what you need to do. And so when I've came here now, I'm full of energy and all this, but I wasn't like that when I woke up.
And I totally get that. And I think I've built a model. It's called the thought tennis, and it's basically thinking of a tennis match in regards to your thoughts, and the serves are your incoming thoughts, and the hits are your thoughts that you're giving back. And I think it's just a constant game of tennis, and you need to have a hit lined up for every serve, because every serve is different. It might be something to do with self-doubt. It might be something to do with your anxiety. It might be something to say that, I don't want to get out of bed today. But you need an affirmation or a hit for every one of those serves, don't you? And I think that's, from today's conversation, I think what you've mastered and what your thing is that you're teaching people and helping, hundreds of people get over is overcoming that fear by mastering tennis in their own head.
Well, yeah, and it's great, your analogy, because I had something similar coming in my head during COVID. I walked down into my kitchen and a thought came at me and it attacked me. And I looked over at my toaster and it popped. And as it popped, I thought, hold on, pinball machine came into my head. And as the negative thought came in, then I just flicked it straight out. I says, no, you're not welcome, leave. And I said it out loud. So when a negative thought comes in my head, not only is it not paying rent, I don't want it to be a tenant inside my head, but I don't give it permission and I flick the thought out, because the thought can only affect me if I give it permission to. And for anybody who's building a brand, for anybody who's out there on social media, the hate comments and anything you may get from jealous people can only affect you if you give it permission to. And I grew up in a country with real hate and death and murder. So if some douchebag is messaging you on Instagram saying, don't like your white teeth, lad, or I don't like Scousers, lad, or whatever somebody might want to say, that can't hurt you unless you allow it. So don't allow it. So, but it's the same as your thinking. You can go down a rabbit hole with your thinking if you allow yourself to. Don't allow yourself to. And the more that you work on your mind, you will start getting to the point where I even see myself sometimes opening a box It's a nice brown box. It's this colour of envelope, and I put the thought into it, I put the lid on it, and I park it on the shelf. You can stay there. I'm not bringing you back out. And I move on. And I see myself shelving it. Okay, Jimmy, where are we next? And that thought's boxed. It's boxed off and I don't want to do it. So it's whatever analogy works for the person. But stop thinking about it. Because what you think you become, that's a fact.
Yeah, it's true. And everything boils down to mindset, like you say. And everything is mindset. Everything is keep pushing forward and mastering your mind. If you can master your mind, you can master your business, your life, your relationships, every area of your life. But on that note, Tom, it's been incredible. Thank you so much for coming down today. I'm excited for the Build a Brand event, May 20th, 21st. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thank you so much.
Brother, you're a gentleman. Thank you very much for having me today in Liverpool.